Does the Big Bang explode the Bible? When you watch almost anything about the stars or the universe on TV or on the internet, they say something about the Big Bang. This evening we're going to be thinking about some scientific problems caused by the Big Bang, and also some scientific problems caused by the Bible's account of creation. So first, scientific problems caused by the Big Bang. The Big Bang is by far the most widely accepted scientific explanation of the existence of the universe. It teaches that the universe began with an explosion. The technical term is a singularity, from which space, time, and matter appeared, and that this universe has been expanding ever since. When evidence was discovered that the universe was expanding, people asked what would happen if you turned the clock back. What would happen if you kept winding the clock back? Eventually you would get to the stage where everything in the universe would be at one point. And so the theory was developed that the universe started at this point with the Big Bang. The Big Bang doesn't prove there's no God. Instead, it assumes there's no God. It says if you keep winding the clock back, if you assume that no God creates the universe at some point, how did this universe get to be the way it is? The Big Bang is very widely accepted by scientists. It fits with lots of experimental results. But the scientific evidence for the Big Bang may not be quite as strong as you think. Today I want to consider 5 problems with the Big Bang. And I suppose these are sort of working backwards in time. Problem 1. Different experiments give different ages for the universe. The Big Bang is part of what's known as the standard model of cosmology. It's basically just a theory of how the universe works. But in the last decade particularly, more and more problems are arising with that model. There are several things that don't match up. And some scientists are even talking about a crisis in cosmology. Palad Ghosh, the BBC science correspondent, has said, "Astronomers believe that we are at the start of a new revolution in cosmology." There are several ways you can estimate the age of the universe using this standard cosmological model. The trouble is that different experiments give you different results. One of the ways you can estimate the age of the universe is from cosmic background radiation. That's a faint glow of light that fills the universe. Another way you can estimate the age of the universe is from the rate of expansion of the universe. I'll not go into the details here, but Dr. Becky Smethurst from Oxford University says the cosmic background radiation and expansion of the universe give different ages for the universe. I'll put a link to some of her videos in the description. So different experiments give different results, to the point where some scientists are wondering if this whole model of cosmology, this whole way of thinking about the universe, needs to be dramatically changed. I don't want to give the wrong impression. As far as I know, the people I've mentioned still hold that the Big Bang is true. They believe that these difficulties will somehow be resolved. But the scientific evidence for the Big Bang isn't quite as unshakable as you might think from what you see on TV. That's the first problem. Different experiments give different ages for the universe. Problem 2 is, what caused the universe to expand so rapidly after the Big Bang? Shortly after the Big Bang, early in the first second of its existence, the universe is thought to have expanded from about half the length of a molecule of DNA to about 62 trillion miles in the tiniest fraction of a second. The scientific name for it is inflation. It means that the volume of the universe increased by more than a billion, 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 billion times in less than a billionth of a billionth of a billionth of a second. No one has any idea what could cause such an incredible rate of expansion, or what would cause it to slow down so dramatically afterwards. So that's the second problem. And what caused the universe to expand so rapidly after the Big Bang? Problem 3. If you wind the clock back and shrink the universe, eventually you get to a stage where the laws of physics won't allow the universe to be compressed anymore. If you follow the laws of physics and wind the clock back, everything gets smaller and smaller until eventually you get to a point where everything in the universe, which is now estimated to weigh about 100,000 billion, 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 billion tons, is in a space that's much, much smaller than a cubic millimeter. The trouble is, the laws of physics just won't allow it to be compressed anymore. And no matter what you do, no matter how you look at it, you just can't get it any smaller. The laws of physics won't allow it. At that point, it would make sense to say the theory must be wrong. It doesn't work. But instead, we're told that the laws of physics must have changed then. Which leads us to another problem. Problem 4. Why did the laws of physics change? The laws of physics don't just change. They don't just appear or disappear. That would be like you waking up one morning, floating above your bed, discovering that gravity didn't exist anymore. It just doesn't work like that. Those who study the Big Bang tell us that the laws of physics changed. But they can't give us any reason why the laws of physics changed. In fact, the Big Bang also has no explanation for why the laws of physics exist at all. And it's no explanation for what caused energy or time or space to appear. And no one has any explanation for what caused the Big Bang itself. If you start with nothing, it can't explode and create everything. In all our years of study and research, we've never found anything else anywhere that comes into existence completely by itself. Problem 5. The universe would need to be unbelievably finely tuned for the Big Bang to produce the right conditions for life to evolve. There are several conditions which would need to be exactly right for the Big Bang to produce a universe where life could evolve. Apparently the gravitational constant, don't worry about what these constants are, they're just numbers that appear in physics equations. The gravitational constant would need to be correct to 1 part in 10 to the power of 60. That's 1 part in 1 with 60 zeros after it. That's an accuracy greater than the accuracy of 1 grain of sand in the weight of the entire universe. Now, the gravitational constant would need to be what it is to that level of precision, or there would be no way life could evolve. Another constant, the cosmological constant, would need to be even more precise. It would need to be correct to 1 part in 10 to the power of 120. That's 1 part in 1 with 120 zeros after it. And the mass and energy of the early universe would need to be evenly distributed to a precision of 1 part in 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 123. 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 123 is an inconceivably big number. I know these numbers with a 10 to the power of can be very confusing, but I'll try to give you a little bit of an idea of the size of this number. 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 1 is 1 with 10 zeros after it. 10 billion. Very roughly the number of people on Earth. 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 2 is much, much bigger. It's 1 with 100 zeros after it. It's 10 billion, 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 billion. That's very, very, very roughly the number of atoms in the entire observable universe. 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 3 is much, much bigger again. It's 1 with 1,000 zeros after it. And there's absolutely nothing we know of that even begins to compare with that. But it would still be possible to write that number down. It's 1 with 1,000 zeros after it. Now we're going to think about a number that you could never write down. If you were to write the number 1 and then write a 0 on every single atom in the entire observable universe, and then line them all up to make one very, very, very long number. Can you imagine it? All the atoms in the entire universe lined up, all with zeros written on them. 1 and all those zeros would maybe get you to about 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 82. That is still way, way, way short of 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 123. The mass and the energy of the early universe would need to be evenly distributed to a precision of 1 part in 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 123 for the Big Bang to produce the right conditions for life to evolve. Atheists tell us that the mass and energy of the early universe just happened to be evenly distributed to that unbelievable level of precision by chance. It's ridiculous. When do you say it's just impossible for that to happen? Even Stephen Hawking says, the remarkable fact is that the values of these numbers seem to have been very finely adjusted to make possible the development of life. So those are some scientific problems caused by the Big Bang. Problem one is that different experiments give different ages of the universe. Problem two is what caused the universe to expand so rapidly just after the Big Bang. Problem three is that if you follow the laws of physics and wind the clock back to shrink the universe, eventually you get to a stage where the laws of physics won't allow the universe to be compressed anymore. Problem four is what caused the laws of physics to change and what caused the laws of physics, energy, time and space to appear. Problem five is that the universe would need to be unbelievably finely tuned for a Big Bang to produce the right conditions for life to evolve. Now we come to think about scientific problems caused by the Bible's account of creation. Or to be more specific, scientific problems caused by a literal 6-day interpretation of the Bible's account of creation. I appreciate that there are other interpretations of the Bible's account of creation, but as far as I can see, most of them seem to be attempts to make the creation account fit current scientific theories. This evening we're going to go back to consider the understanding of Genesis that was generally accepted up until about 200 years ago when these scientific theories appeared. And we're going to think about how it actually measures up to today's science. We're thinking about the view that God created the world in 6 24-hour days. I'm going to consider 3 scientific problems with that view. But before we come to them, let's read what it actually says. We'll read day 1 to 4 from Genesis chapter 1 in the Bible. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. And God said, "Let there be a vault between the waters, to separate water from water." So God made the vault and separated the water under the vault from the water above it. And it was so. God called the vault sky, and there was evening, and there was morning, the second day. And God said, "Let the water under the sky be gathered to one place, and let dry ground appear." And it was so. God called the dry ground land, and the gathered waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the land produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants, and trees on the land that bear fruit with seed in it, according to their various kinds." And it was so. The land produced vegetation, plants bearing seed according to their kinds, and trees bearing fruit with seed in it, according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the third day. And God said, Let there be lights in the vault of the sky, to separate the day from the night, and let them serve as signs to mark sacred times and days and years. And let them be lights in the vault of the sky to give light on the earth. And it was so. God made two great lights, the greater light to govern the day, and the lesser light to govern the night. He also made the stars. God set them in the vault of the sky to give light on the earth, to govern the day and the night, and to separate light from darkness. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the fourth day. So on day one, God makes light and separates it from darkness. On day two, he separates the waters. On day three, he makes dry land and vegetation. And on day four, he makes the sun, moon, and stars. So problem one, God can't make things out of nothing. The idea that God created stuff out of nothing is no harder to believe than believing that everything just appeared out of nothing by itself, which is what the Big Bang says. Problem two. The Bible tells us that God created light on day one, but that he didn't create the sun, moon, and stars until day four. How could there be light on day one if the sun, moon, and stars weren't created until day four? If God can create the universe, I don't see any reason why God couldn't create a stream of photons. Photons are particles of light, to give light on day one. Problem three. How did the light from stars billions of light years away get to us if God created the universe only thousands of years ago? If God created the universe thousands of years ago, or even millions of years ago, how did the light from stars billions of light years away get to us in that time? It should take it billions of years to get to us. I suppose God could have created the light in transit. That is, he could have created the entire beam of light from the stars to the earth instantly, and that would make it look like the stars were billions of years old when they weren't. But that would require God to make a picture of history in the light beams of things that didn't actually happen. My guess is that he probably didn't do that. It just wouldn't seem to fit with what the Bible tells us about how God works. Another possible explanation has to do with the speed of light. You can measure the speed of light relatively easily. You just shine a light over a long distance, bounce it off a mirror, and time how long the whole journey takes. The speed of light is about 300 million meters per second. But it turns out that you can only measure the speed of light when it makes a return journey, when it goes out and back. You can't measure the speed of light on a one-way journey. Scientists have been trying to do that for 100 years and haven't managed. More than that, they think there's no possible way of doing it. If that's the case, there's no way of knowing that light is travelling at the same speed on the way out as it is on the way back. You can assume that the speed of light is the same in both directions, but that's just an assumption. You can't know that it's the same in both directions. You can't verify it. There's no experiment you can do to prove it. Einstein takes it further in his special theory of relativity. The special theory of relativity is counterintuitive, but it's backed up by lots of experiments, so bear with me here. Einstein says that the speed of light, being the same in different directions, is in reality neither a supposition nor a hypothesis about the physical nature of light, but a stipulation which I can make of my own free will in order to arrive at a definition of simultaneity. And that's a quote from his paper on relativity, which he wrote in 1905. He says that the speed of light being the same in different directions is not a physical property of light, but that it's a stipulation I can make of my own free will. It's something we can choose. I know it's weird, but stay with me for a moment. If it's something we can choose, we could choose differently. We could choose the speed of light to be different in different directions. As long as the return journey averages out at 300 million meters per second, we can choose what the speed of light on each leg of the journey is. That's what Einstein says. Whether or not the speed of light is the same in different directions is not a physical property of light, but something we choose. If we were to choose the speed of light coming from stars to Earth to be much greater than the speed of light going from Earth to stars, the problem of how light from distant stars gets to us so quickly disappears. And this isn't just stuff that Christians are dreaming up. It's acknowledged by a wide range of scientists. Dr. Derek Muller runs one of the most successful YouTube science channels. There's nothing in his bio to suggest that he's a Christian. He's probably never even heard of the distant starlight problem. But he's produced a very well-researched video on the subject of the one-way speed of light. While producing the video, he consulted multiple experts in the field. And he says this means you could see stars hundreds of light years away, not as they looked centuries ago, but exactly as they are right now. I'll put a link to his video in the description. So those are some of the scientific problems caused by the Big Bang and some of the scientific problems caused by the Bible's account of creation. I don't think that Christians need to be afraid of the Big Bang. I actually think that there are fewer scientific problems with a literal 6-day interpretation of the Bible's account of creation than there are with the Big Bang. Next time, we'll think about evolution.